Hello. If it's good, then you can actually hear me right now. So welcome to today's presentation. We're going to talk today about SAP Build Process Automation. Who is we? Well, my name is Bert.
My name is Stijn.
The session is called Dev2Dev, although today that is not entirely true because I'm not a developer. But we're talking about a low-code tool, so of course you also need someone who has no experience in development. And of course we also have Stijn, who has a lot of experience in development. So basic rules for today. Let's start with those. So as you can see, everybody is muted. We will record today's session to make sure that you can also watch it afterwards. During the session, you can chat with us. If you can't hear us or there's something technically wrong, we have people sitting to help you. And also, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them. Please do ask them in English so we can actually also show them on the screen, and we will answer those at the end of the session. Agenda for today. We're going to talk first about Fusion. Then we're going to do a demo. Also see, of course, have a peek behind the curtain, how the demo was built. And in the end, we'll wrap up with some lessons learned. So first, starting with Fusion. As said in the introduction, we are going to talk about low-code, no-code tools. This is about developer experience and a developer, how they look at code and how you can actually build applications. We can first look at the left-hand side of the slide, which is about business developers. That's people like me. We don't know any code, maybe had some experience in the past with HTML or CSS, but can't write any actual JavaScript or Java or other things that we might need. We have there the citizen developers who are actually really about day-to-day work, who actually work with the tools and really want something to help them go faster, to deliver value. We have the business developers who can actually help those citizen developers to create those applications. And we talked about for them for about no code, because there's no code involved. It's all about drag and drop. It's all about very intuitive applications. But we also have, of course, the IT developers, people who actually can write code. And there we can make a distinction between rapid developers, people who are going to use low code tools to help them enhance their speed of delivery. But of course, you still need the actual pro code tools to deliver the applications that you might actually need, that you want to deliver value with. And those are then done by the full stack developers. When we take this principle and we're going to look at SAP, SAP has launched SAP Build during the most recent TechEd. SAP Build consists out of three big blocks. The first one is SAP Build Apps, which was formerly AppGyver. This is an application that allows you to create front-end applications very intuitively. You can drag in fields, forms. You can actually have drop-downs, connect them to data, very, very intuitively and easily. That's building the front end. If you're really interested in this, we already did a webinar, Dev2Dev, about AppGyver. You can check it out on our YouTube channel. The second part is what we're going to discuss today. It's about SAP Build Process Automation. Process automation is really focused on making the interaction between workflow and robotics process automation. Why is this combined so powerful? Because you can do basically a lot of things with a form that can be filled in, maybe through an API, maybe through a person, and then take that form through a process. And during that process, you can get information through RPA, or you can actually send away information to a certain system without an actual integration. So you can mimic the end user's actions within other systems. Thirdly, we have SAP Build Workzone, which is the next version of the SAP Launchpad that you might already know with tiles. Here we deliver an actual starting page for employees that delivers everything that you could wish for, being that you can have information, news messages, you can have still the applications, you can integrate information from your automation part, where you can actually display that information. You can use SAC reporting, you can use other types of visuals to grant people insights into their actions that they need to take on that day. So it's integrated with all those things from SAP. Why is this also part of SAP Build? Because building that website is also a low-code, no-code perspective. So you can drag in tiles, you can drag in everything that you need to build that experience for that specific type of user. But those are not the only low-code, no-code tools that SAP have. You also still have the SAP Business Application Studio, which is then focused on those developers that need speed. With Fiori Elements, you can really use low-code tools to build applications faster and better. Just a quick overview of why should we use low-code, no-code tools and those from SAP, and maybe also why not. The first thing is that what you do is you allow more people to develop. It's not only Stijn who can get requests from business, it's also me who can help people develop applications or change applications. And that's also the second part. Development of those simple use cases becomes much faster, right? We don't have to wait for IT to come up with a solution. We can do it ourselves. We don't put stress on that team. Changes can be really swiftly executed because it's such an intuitive part. Even if Stijn has done something, usually it's very easy for me to look at it and change what I need. If I need a different label, if I need an additional field, if I want to change a drop-down value, all those things can be really easily done within these type of tools. Now, why would you use the SAP version? Because of course it's part of your business technology platform. This means that you can use the resources that you have there to run them on. You can have prepackaged integrations. You can use connections to the SAP system, but not only the S4HANA system, but also a C4 system, everything for your CRM, all possible in there. You also have a lot of prepackaged content because, of course, SAP knows business. If you talk about finance, there's a lot of possibilities there with RPA. All those possibilities have been prepackaged into content that you can use and run on your BTP landscape and providing the data directly to your SAP S4HANA system on the finance part. And also there are, of course, artificial intelligence possibilities that you can leverage. But it's not for all use cases. And that's really important to note. That is, you can use this for all, let's call them simple applications. If you have an application where thousands of users need to go very swiftly to a certain process and have a lot of integrations, then maybe it's best to still look at pro-code developers to do this, especially if it's a business critical thing. One of the pitfalls that you also might encounter is a fail forward mindset from the business. This usually is a very good thing, but if you're talking about production data, you're talking about stock or finance, you might not want to dilute or make your data worse by allowing business users to use automation to put data into your systems. So that's why it's really important to have that organizational maturity where you are going to train business users to actually also follow the governance and architecture rules that the IT organization has to put in place. And that's why we firmly believe in those fusion teams. So basically, what is a fusion team? A fusion team is a multidisciplinary team where both IT and business work together. When we think about our collaboration, you can actually see that Stijn has in his mind a lot of things that we need to think about being on an architecture governance point, while I can actually do the business part and think about, okay, but this is something that we need, this function is really important. So if you keep in mind that you have a team member that has that link to an architecture team, that has a link to maybe a data team, that has a link to a governance team, to make sure that everything you build still fits within your IT organizational vision, that's really important. So it's that diversity and having IT on board within those teams that make sure that you can build applications fastly while maintaining quality, because that's really important. That's basically the intro. We have talked about why we need it, what's the strength of it, but it's a Dev2Dev series, so let's dive right into it. And we're going to show you today a demonstration in process automation about HR. And we really looked for a use case that everyone can relate to. So we thought, okay, let's take the use case where someone has had his final job interview and gets a go to start at the company. What happens then? So everyone can relate, I hope at least, that everyone can relate a bit to this. So what have we built? So the first step is that the line manager who actually does the final interview is going to confirm, yes, this person can start within our company. This is a person who doesn't use, let's say, the HR software on a regular basis. So we've built an AppGyver app for this that he can easily say, okay, this was a successful interview. Then, of course, we are going to do the next steps. And the first batch of steps is threefold, in which that the first one is we are going to inform the candidate also via mail that he has successfully ended this last interview and that HR or someone from HR will contact him for the next steps. We are also directly going to create a ticket in For Me, which some of you might know as this is the internal tool at Flexo to create tickets. And we are going to create a ticket asking for someone to create an IDP user. So we have not built an integration here because you will not always have integration possibilities. We simply ask someone to create that IDP user. And we are going to ask the HRBP to contact the new hire and actually get the information that he needs, maybe even sign the contract, get all those things in order, and provide some information that is necessary in the rest of the process. So once that we have gathered that information, we are going to do the next three steps, which is we're going to mail again, for instance, to facility, asking them to create an access badge. We are going to request for a laptop, maybe headphones, a type of laptop bag. And we are going to ask the line manager to confirm that he is on site on the first day that the hire starts. Let's say that he is only there a day later and he can start on a different date. And then lastly, this is where we are going to use the robotics. We are going to automatically create an SAP user because we know when he will start, and that date we can then take forward into creating an SAP user through robotics. And of course, we then also need to inform both the line manager and the new hire that they can start on a certain date. So we will send them an email containing also a calendar item. Okay, so those are the steps we are going to run through today. Stijn?
Yes, so let's dive right in our demo to watch this onboarding process in action. So the first step was our AppGyver application, where the line manager can confirm his final new hire. So here we have an AppGyver application where we can choose between different candidates. So let's take David. Yeah, we think he's an upcoming talent, so let's hire him in our team. So here you can see some information about this person, and we can confirm it right here with this button. So if the confirmation is successful, then our process automation workflow we created is triggered in the background. So first of all, our first batch of tasks is executed. So first of all, is the email to the candidate, to David, that he's hired and that he will be contacted again at a later stage to with more information. For example, the start date for his first day at Flexo. So you can see the email that is been sent. You can see that it's just been sent right now. So it's all real life with the information that's been sent via AppGyver through to the process automation workflow. So all that information is available in that process automation workflow. The next step is the For Me tickets that has been created in For Me. This is via API call. So here you can see that the ticket has been added to the For Me inbox. Again, you can see that the For Me ticket has been created just right now with all the information about the new hire, so that the person that needs to create this user has all the right information available. The last step in the first batch of our workflow is the new task that the HRBP will get to complete some necessary data so that a process can start for the IT hardware responsible, for example, to get all the things, all the equipment in order. So here in the inbox of the HRBP, he gets a new ticket that there's a new hire with all the details of the new hire. And here we can indicate which equipment this new hire needs. So let's say David needs a laptop with a backpack. Also, we have the option here to indicate the means of transport. David would like to have a company car, so let's take that. So when we submit this form, this task, the next batch of steps that Bert in the slides show is executed. So first of all, the email to the facility manager has been sent. So this is an email that requests the facility manager to create a new batch for this person. So in this public inbox that we use, the email has been sent. Again, you can see it's in real life time. with some details that there's a new hire and a batch needs to be created for David.
Here we, of course, took a very simple email. This can be enriched with any data that you would like to get from any other system, let's say an HR system.
The next step in the second batch is the tickets that has been sent to the inbox of the IT hardware responsible because the HRBP requested some equipment for the new hire. The IT hardware manager gets these tickets in his inbox with the necessary equipment that the HRBP has selected. So here we can see David needs a laptop and he needs a backpack, no headphones for him. After he requested the equipment, he can submit this form and the task disappears from his inbox. The last step from the second batch of steps in our workflow is for the line manager. So that was the start date that he has to choose, at which date he's available at the office so that he can welcome the new hire. So we can see for which person he needs to choose a start date. Here's a calendar overview. I'm available at 16th of December. And then if he submits this, then the last batch of steps is executed. So the SAP user will be created. So this is with robotics. You can see right now that we are not doing anything. The bot is taking over the process. He creates the SAP user in our internal S4HANA system of Flexo. And when it is created, the line manager again gets a new notification in his inbox that the SAP user is created with the user credentials that are used in the automation.
So of course, this can also run in the background. You can also make use of a virtual machine, I think it's called.
Yeah, indeed.
That you can actually run it on those types of machines to have this not being displayed to the user itself, but in the end, it gets the same result.
Yeah, indeed. For demo purposes, we downloaded the bot on this local laptop, but the normal use case is to run the bot on a virtual machine so it doesn't interact with your own laptop. Indeed. So when he submits this form, the last step was the email to the candidate with the communication of the start date that he's expected to be at Flexo. So again, an email is sent to the new hire. That was David's. You can see here again, yeah, the email has been sent in real life time. With then the notification, you need to be present at the 16th of December, the start date that the line manager has chosen. Yeah, that he's expected at Flexo. So there is a calendar invite attached to it, but because we use Melanator, it's not visible here. But I will show it in my own Outlook calendar. So here you can see the calendar invite. So the meeting has actually been created, where you can see David Pierre is required as attendee, with then the start date, the 16th of December. So this is the whole onboarding process that we prepared. But as a company, you would like to know, is the process, is it running well? Is it for every new hire? Where are we? In which step of the process are we? This is also possible with a virtual dashboard. It's a clear overview that you get of all the instances of your process automation workflow that are running or have run. So here you can see, for example, there is one open instance that is not yet finished, so you can monitor it that way. You can see we have tested it a lot actually, so you can see that there are a lot of instances that are already completed. If you click into this, if you drill down on it, you can see which hire, for example, it was, and you can follow the whole process workflow this way. Okay, so this was the whole demo. Now let's dive right into process automation itself to see how we've built it.
I hope that was very clear for you that what we've done is actually build an HR workflow. Of course, it's not a realistic one. We took one for demo purposes. So don't take this as this is the way that Flexo works, but it's just to show you what the possibilities are of the tool.
Exactly. So right now we are in process automation itself. So this is the process that we have created. you can see here all the overview of all the steps that we just showed you in the demo. Now, a process in process automation is triggered via or an API call or a form trigger. We've chosen for the API call and to trigger it from AppGyver, from an application in AppGyver, because the functionality of the form builder within process automation is not really advanced. So we want to show you that via AppGyver you can integrate the two process automation and AppGyver into one, and then start your process this way. So let's take a quick look at our AppGyver application. So here you can see the AppGyver application, and when we press the confirm new hire button, the API call to our process automation instance is called with all the information from the fields from the form. And that way, all the information that has been sent via the API call is available within your process.
And this is where we actually need someone who can develop it. This is something that I can't do from the first time. But now that I have the code and I can actually see it, I can easily adapt it.
Yeah, exactly. You can, for example, change your inputs right here. You can add a new input field so that you can send it with your API call, and then you can use that new input field throughout your whole process. Indeed, if you know where it's at, you can configure it as a business user yourself. So the first batch is then executed. It's a parallel branch, so it's executed in parallel. The mail that has been sent is an automation. So every automation makes use of a bot. So the bot normally runs on a virtual machine. But yeah, as you can see, you don't need any coding. You can use the Outlook SDK, for instance, to send your emails. You just pick your send email virtual building block. You configure your email parameters. So we have used here the recipient email address that has been sent from AppGyver. So this will dynamically be included in the email building block. Also, the first name here in the body. So the template that we've used, it's dynamically added, so it's always up to date with the new hire that you have confirmed. The second step in this batch was the creation of the ticket inform me. This is also an automation, so the bot performs this automation. And here you do need some kind of coding because you call an API endpoint. So you do need to configure some parameters. So it's a bit more complex, but again, if you know where it's at, you can, as a business user, add a new field here with some new information, and it will be sent to the API.
Let's say, for instance, that we need a new default field that always needs to be filled in for every ticket. For me, I can easily write this because I can see this. It's simply putting the name of the field and then just adding the value behind it between quotes. So I can easily copy the information and try it myself.
So this is the bit of code you need to call this virtual building block that you would drag into your automation. You use the output of your code to call this API. Then the final step of the first batch was the inbox task for the HRBP. This is created via the form editor within process automation. So you can see the similarities with AppGyver a little bit. Again, some building blocks. You can drag in a new field if you'd like to. This is all very intuitive, and you can fill in your label yourself. But again, the functionality is limited here, right here. We wanted to create. We wanted to only show the type of bag drop-down field when a laptop has been selected, but this functionality is not yet available within the form editor. But SAP is their intention is to natively integrate AppGyver with process automation, so that you can.
Because in AppGyver, you can easily say, okay, only show this field if this field is checked. That's really easy to do as an end user, which currently is not yet within process automation.
Then the next batch is executed. This is also a limitation that is right now in process automation. that all the three branches of a parallel sequence need to be executed and need to be successful to be able to start your next step of your workflow. So we had the idea to execute the next batch if this branch was executed. So it doesn't matter if this branch is still being executed or has failed. We wanted to execute it when this branch was submitted or successfully executed. But again, SAP is working hard to implement also these features within process automation.
So if I take this from a business perspective, what does it mean? In fact, what I wanted to have is that whenever the HRBP had this conversation with the new hire and confirmed, okay, he's going to start, I want to continue the process, whether or not other parts were already foreseen or not, that should be the trigger to continue. And when you create a parallel workflow, all of the parallels must be finalized before you can continue into the next phase.
Okay, so when the first batch of steps has been executed, the next batch that we showed in the demo is again executed in parallel. Again, a mail has been sent. This is the same structure of automation than the last email. But here you can see you can map your data to the input fields that you have submitted for your automation. So here you say for this automation, I would like to have an email parameter, and then you can map the data that has been sent from AppGyver to this input parameter, so that this parameter is available to use in your automation right here. So again, all very visual. You can adjust it without writing any code. Also, the next two steps for this batch are again tasks that are sent to the inboxes. So again, created with the form editor. Also here you can dynamically adjust the values of your subject of your task in your inbox. So again, we have used here the first name and last name of the hire that has been confirmed. And again, the same structure here for this new inbox task. When all these three steps were completed, another two parallel branches were executed. And here is the robotics automation. So this is a bit different. So because there is no API available to create an SAP user in our internal Flexo S/4HANA system, we mimicked the user interactions to create an SAP user. So you first need to capture all your screens that you go through, all the steps that you take as a user. This can seem a little bit daunting, but there's a feature called the recorder. So you record actually every step you take when creating an SAP user. And when you finish this recording, the recording is automatically transformed into this code. So I didn't code this myself. I just recorded the creation of the SAP user with the recorder feature, and it is translated into this automation.
That's, of course, a very strong part when you use the robot of SAP itself, that it recognizes all the SAP screens, whether it's GUI or online. It knows what you're doing. It really records it well. We only had to record this once to actually create an entire user.
Again, you can adjust this yourself. Actually, if there's a screen missing in a certain scenario, you can adjust your automation so it works for every possible scenario. And then after the SAP user is created, we have created another inbox task that uses the outputs that we have here used. So we have used some credentials. We picked the first two letters of the first name and the first letters of the last name as a username. So that's input or output that you use here in this automation is then again available in your further process. So this way you can use it here in your form, so it's available. You can fill it here in with the output of the automation.
So that's really to show that you can grab information using RPA or write away information using RPA.
And then the last step of our process was the calendar invite to our to our new hire. Again, this is an automation that uses the Outlook SDK. It's a different building block, so yeah, no additional coding required here. Instead of the send email building block, you are using the create meeting building block, which you can again fill in your required parameters, and it will automatically send these kind of invites to your new hire. So yeah, it's all very intuitively that you can adjust some things, all very visual. Um, so yeah, definitely recommending this process automation.
Absolutely. So maybe we can switch to the presentation again, and we can run through a bit of the wrap up. And so you've had a bit of the look behind the curtain. I think Stijn perfectly showed you how we built what you first saw. So we used SAP Build Apps. As said, we already did a Dev2Dev on this. You can find it on our YouTube channel. And then we use different parts of SAP Build Process Automation. So we used the form building, which was really easy for end users like me. The workflow management, also making sure that you have those parallel items, that you have all the different steps, that you know a difference between a parallel and a serial step. We used robotics process automation using the record function on an SAP environment, also very easy. What we didn't really use yet are those pre-built integrations and context and the artificial intelligence. Now, don't you worry. This is something that we are really keen to explain to you. So we have a session also on the 9th of February. It's also a slide of it in the presentation later. But you already mark in your agenda the 9th of February. Contact us, and we will make sure that you get a seat on our hands-on process automation session. Now, we have worked on this together, and we have learned some lessons. A couple of them are very generic, which is no code does not mean no learning. It's not like, I have a tool here, I've got 1 hour to spare, okay, I'm going to build an application now. No, you need some learning or training. SAP has great videos that you can actually watch and make sure that you understand what each of the buttons in the application does. And once that you've gone through that learning, it's really easy to start building applications. And it's not like learning JavaScript where you need a couple of years to make sure that you can really understand coding. I think in a day or a day and a half, you can actually learn a lot and you can actually start building those first applications. But please don't forget, there is learning involved. Also, no code does not mean no architecture and governance. We already put this in the beginning, but it's really important to note. Those who really paid attention saw that we worked on a version 2, because simply the first one was too messed up with all the things that we've done and all the data. So it's really cool to have a test environment that you can work on rather than working directly on a production environment. Select the optimal tool for the job. If you want to have a very complex, let's say, hiring process, this might not be the tool for the job. Or if you already have success factors, it might be best built in there. So really make sure that together with business users, you still decide which is the tool for the job. Create reusable components. Don't write the same integration 20 times. Write it once and make sure that everybody knows about it and that you can reuse it. That was for me really powerful during this experience. Stijn built up something and I could simply take that part, put it into the workflow and work through it and adapt it where needed. Because once that you have the logic, it's really easy to adapt. Data management and governance is also very important. You're capturing data, you're writing it away to the right system. Make sure that you govern it also the right way. And of course, identity and access management, make sure that you only grant access to the applications or to the instances for people that you actually that are actually trained for this. What does this mean? In fact, it means no code does not mean no IT. So this was for us the demo of today. This is what we wanted to show you. I hope you enjoyed our special Christmas edition with the Christmas tree behind me. Things to look out for is, as I said before, February 9th, our low-code, no-code seminar. It will be at our offices, really hands-on, showing you and allowing you to work together with us on those applications. So this is the learning that we're talking about. You can grab that here in our offices. So don't hesitate to reach out to us there. And then I think we can jump to the Q&A. Perfect. I don't know if any questions have been asked. So our moderator, Anne, is currently seeing which questions have come in. So I see a question coming in. Can you do more with SAP builds than you could with SAP AppGyver?
Yes, so SAP builds apps actually. So the AppGyver part is actually an evolution of AppGyver. So now there's extra functionality. You can create your own backend in a visual way, again, with no coding required. So that's an extra evolution upon AppGyver. That's how it's great.
And also the former AppGyver application is still available within SAP. So if you had AppGyver, you can still use it. But for instance, integration also with Launchpad and with WorkZone will work differently. For the SAP built apps, you can easily integrate with Launchpad and WorkZone. This is not the case for the classic AppGyver, as it's called. Okay, another question. SAP Process Automation license counts API calls as metric. Do you have an idea where you use API calls and how many for one run of this process? So
yeah, so the AppGyver part, so when we confirm the new hire, that's one API call. So you do an API call towards your process automation instance. And that's, for me, it counts as one API call. And then your process is triggered. And so all the steps are executed.
And some of those will trigger API calls. It's when we use the building blocks like for creating a for me ticket, that will be an API call.
I'm not exactly sure if that counts towards the API calls towards process automation. Yeah, I can look into that and explain it to you later.
No, we will look into this to see which of them actually calls. But if you would use the robotics process automation, like with the SAP user, of course, that's not an API call that you use. Okay. What can you tell about the visibility scenario? How are different steps in the process made visible in the monitoring dashboard?
So within a process, you can create a virtual dashboard visibility scenario instance. And that is what you saw in the demo. It's a standard dashboard, but you can make all kinds of customization. You can add your own graphs, add your own new data that you want to see. So for example, if you would like to see how many company cars or the means of transport, so how that metric is handled, you can add that to your dashboard to see what are the preferences for the new hires. If you need to put more emphasis on company cars, for example, if that's popular, you can all integrate it into the dashboards.
Will the old low-code tools become obsolete? Currently, you still have availability of the SAP AppGyver. It's called AppGyver Classic. But there's no real roadmap for that anymore. So that means that I believe that SAP is going to, of course, in overdue time, will really put a focus on the SAP built apps. Can you also deploy an AppGyver app to a regular Launchpad, or do you need SAP WorkZone? If you talk about the AppGyver application, so let's call them AppGyver Classic, then deploying to the Launchpad will become more difficult. When you use the new SAP built apps, it will be also very easy to deploy them towards your Launchpad. It's not that you need WorkZone to use those. Okay. I think that was it for today. I want to thank you all very much for your attendance. I really hoped you enjoyed. And if something was not clear, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.